Hey y'all, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how I make a closure wig on the dome cap using the sewing machine. Okay y'all, for today's tutorial I'm going to be using my loose deep wave, which is online on my site. So I'm just showing you that. Look at that texture. Look at that texture. Bah, bah. Sorry y'all. Okay, so right here I'm just doubling my wefts. Usually on my videos, I double my weft. I have the weft turned the other way, but I found out that it's easier to do it on the left-hand side. It's like it's easier to grasp better. I notice when I do it on the right side more, it's like it bubbles up and I have to do it over. So I guess you just have to try and see which way you prefer better, basically. And you can see as I'm doubling the wefts, after a certain length, I'm still checking on the other end to make sure that the pattern is going the way that I want it to be double. Yes, the neatness of the double wefts. Okay, y'all, so for this video, I'm going to be working with the 22-inch mannequin head. And what I'm going to do first, I'm just going to make sure I have my dome cap at the correct spots. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to measure front to back. I'm going to measure ear to ear, just to make sure I do spread my dome cap out to the correct measurements. And once I see where those measurements are, I'm going to take just my T-pins and I'm going to put it into those spots. So when I put my cap on, my mesh dome cap, I know it's at the right location. This is the mesh dome cap that I'm going to be using. I picked this up from my local beauty supply store, and I'm just going to take it out the pack. Help me, Lord. Take it out the pack and put it on my mannequin head. Okay, and right here, I'm just making sure I have it at the correct spots that I want it to stretch to. As you can see at the back, when using the mesh dome cap, it doesn't stretch all the way to the nape, and the nape goes back down farther. So I'm just going to take the T-pins and I'm going to stretch it down to where I want my nape, where my nape is located. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to place my closure in the center of the dome cap. And once I have it at the spot that I want it at, I'm going to T-pin both sides on the closure, on the ribbon part, the part that you would sew on. And I'm going to take my closure, I'm going to make sure I place it a little bit, about half an inch in front of the dome cap. And this is just for more security, because as we all know, when you wear the wigs, it's like the wig slips back. So placing it in front of the dome cap just ensures that you'll have that better security right there. It won't be sliding back. Okay, now that we have it pinned correctly at the front where the hairline area is, we're going to go ahead and pin it on the back of the closure. When you pin it on the back of the closure, you want to grip it so that there are no bumps on the ribbon section of the closure. Try to get a better angle so you can see how I'm gripping it kind of tightly. So see the bumps. When I take the T-pin, I'm going to lay it down and make sure I lay it down tight enough so it's securely flat. Better yet, flush to the cap. This may take you a couple of times to do, because I've noticed sometimes when you try to lay it flat, it gaps on one side or it'll gap in the back and it'll be flat on one side. So just takes a little bit of time. So give it a second. Don't get frustrated. After you get your closure flat onto the cap and at the right location you want it at, you can choose to go ahead and sew down the closure. I'm just showing you how flat I got it and how you should have it. You can choose to sew down the closure, or you can go ahead and trace it and take the closure back off, like I'm finna do. So like I said, you can choose if you want to go ahead and sew your closure down, or you can choose if you just want to make the trace around it and take it off and proceed with your guidelines. So what I'm doing right now, I'm putting my closure hair into a ponytail, and I'm going to take my Sharpie marker and I'm just going to trace around it, because it just seems like to me when I trace around it and don't go ahead and sew it down, it saves me time. So I'm just going to trace around it. After I finish tracing around it, I'm going to go ahead and take my T-pins out. And this is how it looks. Okay, so now what we're going to do is make our guidelines for our wefts. Now, usually on my other videos, my lines that I usually do on my ventilator caps, I'll tell you they're just guidelines and you don't have to sew directly on the lines. But for this, for the mesh dome cap method, we're going to, the guidelines that we draw, we're going to sew directly onto them. But as I showed you earlier, I doubled my wefts. So with doubling the wefts, we may not sew on each one of these lines. The method that I'm showing you now with these guidelines, this is usually the method for if you're doing just one single track. I'm sorry, I'm getting all flabbergasted. But yeah, usually when double wefting, you'll use less lines, but I'll show you what I mean. And although I said I may not sew on all of these lines because I double wefted my wefts, if I did have 4 or 5 bundles I was trying to fit on here, I would use all of these lines. So you just have to get a groove for how much hair you usually use when making your wig, which method you're doing it with, and what you prefer. Because also something that you could do, you could, if you want to fit all 3 bundles and you don't want to chance it, you could just double the wefts on one bundle instead of doubling all 3. Finished look of drawing our guidelines. Okay, and that's the finished product. So make sure you like, comment, tell me what else you need to see. Make sure you subscribe so I know you're watching, so I can continue on with part 2 of the dome cap on the sewing machine.